Hello and welcome to Back of the Net and Beyond. My name's Danny Thomas. Today I'm going to be speaking to former teammate Guy Branston, who previously played for Leicester City, Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday. How's it going, mate? You okay?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having me on this Halloween special.
I
I knew
appreciate you
you'd get me
coming
on the Halloween special. I'm the main guest with Frankenstein.
That's it. How's things anyway? How's life?
Mate, very happy. In and out of lockdown in Leicester, obviously. We're just going to obviously get a national now, but been busy, been working behind the scenes. I'm currently, like I said, like the loans manager at Leicester City, working with the 23s down, doing all the lads that are out on loan. Got quite a few out now.
Nice.
Windows closed now, so I'm working with them whilst they're going through their pathway and finding their path in football, and hopefully getting some more into the first team like we did with like the likes of Harvey Barnes coming through the loan system, people like that recently.
Brilliant. So are you still involved within the game to some capacity? Talk us through kind of what your daily routine is, what your kind of working week is.
Going into loan management from coaching was something I wanted to do just because of the coaching off the pitch, the management of players, the understanding of their mentalities of when they're off the training pitch, you know, how they manage themselves, how I would manage them, and all them different aspects that a lot of people, I would say, miss out on because they don't see it. So I'm now in that pot. So my daily routine for the so-called loans manager would be get up in the morning as normal, go into the office if allowed, depending on staff requirements to do with COVID, obviously at the minute because of the restriction. But let's base it at home. Obviously, take the kids to school, do what you do, get rid of the kids for the time period, and then crack on with your work. I get online. I'm on discussions with the lads after training. I've gone through their clips from the previous night or the previous game. I've filed that on the Dropbox. I've gone through more footage on them. We've broke down videos of their gameplay. And then afternoon time comes, I'm probably catching up calls with the lads, organising, say, HR to give them a call or the members of staff to give them a call, you know, sorting out little things like housing, accommodation for them. And then also, you know, basically my main skill set is talking to them, dealing with them, rapport, working on their mental health, working on how they're feeling being away from home, how they're feeling being, you know, in a different dressing room, how they're feeling, and just understanding them. And I've been lucky enough to be around the training ground with them, so I've got a good rapport anyway. So they can call me off the cuff, they can call me anytime, and we just have an open relationship. There's a connection from Leicester City to them, and they don't feel like I'm smothering them because I'm not, and they know that I'm there because I am there, and that's the important thing. I think that when I went out on loan, which you knew me, you know, when we played together at Leicester, you knew me as a travelling salesman, as a Notts County, and you know, all these different things that I did. You know, I've been around the block, so I've seen flaws that maybe I wanted to implement into Leicester City's departments, and I'm hugely slowly but surely doing that because they're letting me do that, which is fantastic because the club's changed a lot since we was there. It's a hugely improved place, a hugely improved academy with everything you can think of. But you know, I do manage that as well, that we've got to manage it in a way where we don't give the lads everything just yet, because they're not at the stage where maybe they think they are, maybe their agent thinks they are, maybe their parents, their social and psychologically think they are, you know. So we have to be careful of not giving them too much too soon. But there's still a lot more than we had and how he was brought up. But that doesn't mean we wouldn't have got where we got either, you know. So there's that hunger and desire to get where we've got from what we had, and that's what I try and tell the lads as well. You know, these are the scare stories, but you're not there yet. So let's work on the positives. Let's make it this a positive experience.
I think that's really important, and you touched on a few things there that I kind of resonate with. It seems like you're obviously looking after the players on the pitch, but also their kind of welfare off it. And I think going back to when we were young, I mean, you're a few years older than me, but
whoa.
Just being honest. But let's take it back probably let's say 20 years.
20 years. Let's take it back 20 years.
It's scary, ain't it?
When me and you had good hair. Good hair.
Yeah.
I always remember your hair.
I know, it's gone. Well, yeah, I've still got hair, but I've got a little bald patch. I have to shave it all off.
Listen, I want to show you my baboon's bum.
But yeah, so like, I always recollect like when players would go on loan. I remember yourself going on loan to a few different clubs, and sometimes you hear stories where players gone out on loan and like no one from the club's kind of contacted them. No one's gone to watch them to see how they're getting on. It's just a case of word of mouth. Maybe speak to like one of the coaches there, and then depending on your relationship with the coach at the club, could depend on how he perceives you. So if he says, well, okay, well, Guy's doing okay, but you may have done really well, but he may not like your personality or just may not like something about you. So he's not gonna, he may not, or he or she may not portray you in that kind of light that you should be portrayed in. Whereas nowadays, I think people who are doing your role, spoke to a few different people who are kind of doing your role, and it's kind of, they speak to them kind of on a daily basis. There's that relationship there. It's more tangible for the players because they can reach out to you and kind of call you whenever they, not necessarily whenever they need something. They may just want to ask you a question or just touch base and just see how things are going. So it's really important. And obviously infrastructure's changed. There's a lot more money in it. Facilities are a lot better, as you mentioned there. And I assume it works really well because from what I can remember, I think you're a Leicester boy anyway, aren't you? So it works really well. And obviously you've got that natural connection because you used to play for the club as well. So you mentioned before, like you were coaching and now you're obviously doing what you're doing. So like how, obviously coaching is a different element to the game. How did you find coaching?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's something that I'd seen, you know, the difficulty you have, I think, with a lot of ex-footballers, and listen, this is my opinion, not gospel. Yeah. I'd seen a lot of the coaching courses. I've been in the mix of them all. I've gone and done them. I've took my time and educated myself off the pitch as well as on the pitch, and the coaching badges and this, that, and the other. And it wasn't something that stood out to me as massively important. And it looked like there were people were just trying to massively reinvent the wheel with it all. And I'm still in this position of understanding, being in around dressing rooms, being in around the lads. If you've got a core of good lads who understand what football looks like in the I would say the arena they're in, so whatever level they're in, I would say that, you know, if they turn up on that Saturday afternoon, regardless of the shape, regardless of the coaching, regardless of a lot of things, they'll go and perform.
Yeah.
I knew, you know, when we went into that Notts County dressing room, when I come in on, you know, for them 28 days, there was a core of good lads there, but somebody somewhere wasn't getting the best out of them. And that's my idea. You know, you've got to get the best out of people. And that's where I wanted to learn a lot of the mentoring, the coaching off the pitch, the understanding the cultures of clubs, leadership qualities.
Yeah.
You know, listen, I would go into a dressing room, any dressing room in the country, because I had to, and put my presence in that dressing room, regardless. People liked me or didn't like me, regardless, because I knew it was a period of time that this is me. You know, not overly, fucking what's Brano doing? You know, this is me. Yeah. Hey lads, how you doing? Take me as I come. This is what you're getting whilst I'm here. And lads either would join me or would go against me, and that's how it was. In regards to coaching, I'd go into the dressing room. I'd see how the coaching was going on as a player. You know, I'd get as much out of it as I possibly could. I tried to be better. I tried to work at my game. But that was my internal drive. That was myself.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't, I didn't particularly look at any sort of management as I grew into football. Any of them were trying to make me better. And I'll tell you now, this is a bizarre thing, right? I come back off loan, and you worked with him, and he was a fantastic guy called Nev Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I only started working with him as I was leaving.
Right.
And I laughed off his coaching when I got back from being out on loan, because I'd already won promotion now. Yeah. You know, I was flying. You know, I was flying, I was signing new contracts, I was getting agents ringing me up, I was signing for so-and-so, I was going here next week, I was doing this.
Yeah.
And my head was going, I was like, well, what am I coming back to the 21s for when there ain't even a 21 setup?
Yeah.
And Nev was going, listen, you've got so many flaws in your game still. You can work at this and become this. You can work at this and become that. Dave Nish was going, listen, work at your game, work at your game. And I was going, yeah, okay, well, show me then, show me. And even Dave Rennie, who's just recently left Leicester City, was working with me on my feet. And, you know, it was unbelievable that I was going away on loan and I was going back to previous development and they were working at bits with my game. And I was trying to take them bits to these other clubs that I went to. And they weren't bothered to carry on that development.
Yeah.
It was about winning. It was about performances. It was about all these different things. And they were the things that again, I wanted to implement into my system and my department. And that we don't forget these lads when they go out on loan, that they're still development players. Yeah. They're still in that box where they can improve. They're still in that box where you don't stop learning. You know, there's still them coaching elements that we need to implement into their loan experience from Leicester City. You know, they're not just going there to learn this. They're going there to learn a different style of coaching, yes, but we still have a good hold on them with the coaching techniques and the coaching stuff that we've got at our club, because it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, let's not just loan them that and forget about them, like you already touched on. We won't do that. Let's not forget about them in that department. Let's not forget about them in the coaching department. Let's not forget about them in the HR department, the mental health, the psychology department. They're out on loan. Let's keep in touch with them. You know, and that's my strength of linking it all together, which I have to do. Yeah. But going back to your original question, the coaching was something that was just another department for me, because I started to see the bigger picture of what football looked like very early on, and also very later on, going, right, I've got to start planning, I've got to start preparing, I've got to start organising my life after football. And I did that, I think, at 28, 29, you know, with my houses and my accommodation and where I was living, and my work rate off the pitch was probably excelling too much at times to deliver housing and accommodation for my family and my friends, and making sure I did something out of football, because no one's going to help you after football, mate. Nobody, other than yourself.
Yeah, that's, I mean, massive. And I want to touch on kind of your transition away from football a bit later on. But one thing that struck out there, well, there's a few things, but one in particular was what you said when you went on loan and players either took to you in the dressing room or they didn't. So I was literally talking to my wife a minute ago, because she was like, oh, who are you speaking to today? So I was like, oh, Guy Branston used to be at Leicester with it. And I remember my first day at Leicester. So I had just left Forest through my own choice as a 16-year-old. So I just started my apprentice, had like a 3-year contract, and I just didn't enjoy it there, long story short. So went on trial to loads of clubs, and Leicester was like, I'd probably say one of the last clubs I went to, not because of any choice, just because I'd been to Derby, Man City or whatever, and I wasn't fit at the time. I'd just come back from like a hairline fracture, been out for like months. So Leicester was like a club where I thought, okay, well, it's close to home, because I'm from Leamington, so it's like South Midlands to kind of East Midlands, so not too far. 16, I've got no dependents, no outgoings or anything. I'm getting fit now. Let's try and like establish myself at Leicester. And I walked in the dressing room, and as you know, like for me anyway, when you're going to a new club, I always try and be one of the first in the dressing room, just so that when everyone comes in, they can see you, and then it's a bit more easy. The transition's a bit more easy. But because I couldn't drive, one of the coaches picked me up, and he like picked me up to my mum's house, took me there, and I got there at like, I don't know, whatever time, and everyone else was already in there. So I walked in and everyone's in there, and like, I'm not a shy person anyway, but I was getting changed and whatever. And I remember you were like one of the first ones to speak to me. And you were, obviously, I said you're a few years older than me, but we all used to share a dressing room and that.
Stop bringing it up.
I know. But yeah, I mean, I always remember that scenario where like, obviously everyone was polite and stuff, but you reached out to me, and then it kind of went from there. And like, obviously, because we're different age groups, we didn't really play together until it came to the reserves. And I remember like, you in the dressing room, you were always like one of the popular ones, always having like great banter and that. But when it came to like training and especially games, I was expecting the same like Guy Branston to be like all like jokey and whatever. But then the first couple of times in the reserve, like, I remember seeing you, and I was thinking, this is a different guy. Like his head's like different, like pure focused on the game, rallying the boys, and I was like, oh, okay, because I was still learning. I still hadn't discovered myself, so I was like expecting to see the jokey guy that I saw before training, and then obviously my first kind of recollection of your not a personality change, but in training you were like just on it, and then after training you'd go back into this jovial guy again. And then when it came to the game, I was like, he's stepped up a level again, like in terms of rallying the boys. And sometimes you go into a dressing room and players just shout things just for the sake of it, and it's just for them to talk.
Tourette's.
Yeah, but you weren't like that. It was more of like we've got something to do here, boys. Like we're coming to work. It was like an army rallying call. So.
I smile because it makes me feel good you saying that, and I appreciate that, because like you miss that. I miss that. I do. I genuinely miss that, and I don't miss the niceties of what people tell me. I don't miss that. What I've missed since I've finished is them little accolades that you just gave me there, right? It's honestly touched me, and I really appreciate that, because you don't realise, when you finish what career you had.
Yeah.
And it ain't about going out and talking about it and just talking about it and just talking about it and just talking about it. It ain't that. I don't miss that. I don't miss talking about just Rotherham. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I like talking about all sorts of aspects, and especially the psychological side of it. Yeah. I'm really interested in it, because that was just normal for me. People talk about, he needs to shift, he needs to switch, you can't switch it on, switch it off, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. But you can tell if players have that.
Yeah.
And like you've hit the nail on the head. I had that. I knew I had that, but I didn't have other bits. And I knew I didn't have other bits, but I worked at them bits.
Yeah.
And they were things that super skills or psychological pluses I had intrinsically, driven. Yeah. They're driven, like, mate, shit that went on in my life when I was a kid, it drives you. Or you end up fucking going around with the Leicester boys being wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was where I was from. That's the crew I knock about with still to this day. They're my friends. They're my ones. They're the ones I grew up with.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be them.
Yeah.
I couldn't be that situation. I couldn't be in that situation that I could have gone down. And that's a big thing that you hit on there, that I wanted it. I was hungry for it. Yeah, I'll come and have a laugh with you. I'll shake your hand and say, listen, sorry about a tackle, but I genuinely thought I could win it. Or, do you know what? I ain't bothered.
Yeah.
Some players, unfortunately, I wasn't bothered. Like I said to you, even when I trained with the first team, or so what?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So what? If you didn't like it, so what? I can't do anything about it. I'm there to do a job, and I'm going to get that shirt. I'm going to try and get in that first team, and that's hunger. That's hunger. That's intrinsic hunger. And some people just don't have it.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
We can. Do you want to be a footballer, or do you want to be a footballer? And I've said this to a couple of people. Everyone's gone, what?
Yeah, because they don't get it. Yeah.
I said, do you want to be a footballer, or do you want to be a footballer? And they look at me and go, what? And then I explain it. I go, listen, great being a footballer, but do you really want to be a footballer? The 1% difference is huge. Where do you want to go? Why do you want to keep getting in the car to drive to that football club to train? Like you said, why did you want to go Leicester but not Man City? Who knows? You might not have been fit. All these different aspects might come into it. You thought Leicester City was your place to go and make a career for yourself. That was the decision you had. You made the decision. You come in the dressing room, you felt comfortable. Mate, you had a career. Regardless of what anyone said, you had a career. And again, thanking for what you just said to me. I look back at my career and I do forget certain issues, but I do forget good things as well. And that's a real positive thing that you said to me, and I appreciate that. To hear that I switched from training to matches, it's good for me, because I'm pleased about it, because I wanted to.
Yeah.
I was hungry to. I still do it now when I go into business mode or work mode.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, that's just my perception. I mean, I'll be honest. There's some players where you look at and you think, destined to be a manager or destined to stay in the game or whatever. And I didn't expect that from you, I'll be honest. I always knew you had ability and you were always driven and stuff, and I knew you had the football side of it. But sometimes, like with me, I'm not involved in the game anymore to no capacity at all. But
I didn't expect me to be in the game.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to go the coaching route, and then obviously now being like
dead.
No, 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 because what it is with you, like I always knew after speaking to you, because I'll touch on something else I want to speak to you about in a minute. After speaking to you, I knew you had your head like on. Your head was always screwed on, regardless. But I just thought, oh, okay, well he's gonna play football, retire, and then maybe go into like doing something else. I didn't think you'd go down the coaching route, and then obviously now being kind of pivotal at Leicester, involved in loans and things like that. It sounds like you're doing great things, but it leads me on to kind of my next question, which is, do you think, like during your career, I'm talking like say from Leicester and the youth team into the reserves at Leicester, and then leaving, going on loan, then kicking on at Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday, do you think that kind of you were ever misunderstood? And what I mean by that is, for those of you that don't know, like Guy, when you see him, so skinhead, meathead, stocky,
Fucking hell!
like, and yeah, but you know when people have a perception, because I know people have got a perception of me as well, like good, bad, or indifferent. That's just how they perceive you, and people will naturally do that if you're a sports person anyway.
Hey, instantly, you get instantly typecast, and that's the trouble you have in football. That's the trouble you have with images and perception, and your past drives that.
Yeah,
you know, no one knew where I was from in Leicester.
Exactly. So in terms of your career, because you had a good career, I remember you left Leicester and it could have gone like either way, and you kicked on and you did really well. And I think we only played against each other maybe once when you were at Rotherham. I think I was at Bournemouth.
Where was it? Boston. Maybe Boston. Yeah. I mean, I dobbed in for 28 days. I got 28-day stint at Notts County with, but that was for 5 minutes as well. Yeah, but I think it was Boston. I think you just finishing off when Boston were in the league, weren't you?
Yeah. So yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I think we only kind of crossed paths probably maybe once or twice. But yeah. So I mean, in terms of the question, it's kind of, do you think you were misunderstood? Because from the outside looking in, you're thinking like, who's this meathead? Like, and then obviously when you play, you realise you can actually defend like a proper defender. But you're actually a nice guy off the pitch. So I know what it's like in football and in life in general. Sometimes they always say you never get a second chance to make a first impression and things like that. And sometimes people will look at you and think, oh, not for me. But then they just dismiss you straight away for whatever reason. Like with me, I'm small. So people would think, oh, not for me. He's small, lightweight. I'm not small and stocky. I'm small and like I'm thin. Do you know what I mean?
You were quick. You were quick.
Yeah.
Oh, you were quick. That twist, mate. You get my ankles all sore.
So with you, it's like
training and places like that. You know, you see. But now, I mean, 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, stiff, stiff and slow. But I weren't slow, so I was all right. So when I was younger, I weren't slow, which was good. But no, tight casting, yeah, definitely. It was something that I got used to, something I used, something I worked out very. I mean, I got into psychology, no word of a lie, 18, 19, right? So I was reading books on psychology. I was reading books on sports psychology, self-help books, 18, 19. Okay. Yeah, I've got a book upstairs, still to this day, that I go and go back into and look into and that. And do you know what? I glimpsed over it the other day in the bath, because I believe that the stuff we tell ourselves and the stuff we're told about ourselves and the I would say the social that you're hanging around, the people you hang around, bring you down, get you up. You get yourself up with self-talk. You get yourself down with self-talk. It just goes off in your head sometimes. Your little monkey on each shoulder chatting away to you, positive and negative, and all these different aspects I'd woke up to pretty early on. So I would use that image I had sometimes to implement myself in a dressing room. I would use that to have discussions with management. I also understood my tone because I grew up with my mum. My mum's a slight lady. I'm a big, powerful kid, 6'1", big, strong boy. Probably stayed the same size as I did when I was, growing up. So my mum would always be on me about my tone, the way I speak, the way I am. And I'm going, what are you talking about? Like, I said it this way. No, you didn't. Look at the way you're acting. Look at the way you are. Look at your body language. But, I was like, body language, I'm 18. What are you talking about? Oh, have a look at this. Read this. Try that. So all these different things that she'd say to me, like, and she was massive influence. My mum's my mum. But like more so than my dad, because then my dad. So like I'd sit there with my mum and go, "What do you mean?" And she'd go, "Well, try this and try that." And you know, remember you're speaking to a woman here. I'm your mum. Like you're speaking to a call centre here. Speak like this, because she worked in call centres.
Okay.
And like I was learning negotiation before I even knew what I was learning.
Really?
I was learning persuasion before I even knew what persuasion was. I was learning rapport before the terminology had even come out. So, you know, I was going into different dressing rooms, dealing with different cultures, dealing with different diverse people, and being able to mix when I needed to mix.
Yeah, yeah.
Not trying to be that group just for the sake of being that group. Be Guy Branston.
Yeah.
But like, hold on a minute, they're young lads. They need a different sort of type of Guy Branston. They don't need fucking swearing and shouting and pointing a finger at him. Yeah. You know, he needs an arm around him for 5 minutes to make him feel comfortable. Because I'm going to need Danny Thomas. I'm going to need my Pipes. Pipes always brings that story up when he come in his dad's suit and turned up at the training ground. You know, and stuff like that. But like, why wouldn't I embrace you in the dressing room? You know, that's the big thing that people look at me and go, "Oh, he's going to be hard work, him."
Yeah.
Why am I? Why not embrace me?
Yeah.
You know, why not come over to me and bowl over to me and don't feel any fear in the dressing room? Why not bowl over to me and come and have a conversation with me? I'll be like, yeah, nice one. Cheers, mate. Let's have a coffee. Yeah. And they're the different things that I'd already learned going into dressing rooms. And I tell you, my biggest thing, and this is what I always say to people, I got exposed to it very early on and swam. So when I was still at Leicester as a kid, I was playing senior league football. I was playing men's football at 14, 15, still at Leicester City, because the rules were different back then. And they were making, I was earning a few quid. I needed to make money. I was from a poor family. I didn't have stacks of dough around me. So making 30, 40 quid playing Saturday afternoon and then playing for Leicester on a Sunday, I was doing that every weekend. You know, I didn't feel this, I need a plus one day, or, you know, I play every day. I loved it. And like I said, the hunger and desire for me to get away from that level, and to be fair, I was tearing it up, to be a 15-year-old against a man and he's like threatening to kill me and stuff, and I'm like laughing, didn't take on board what he's saying. But like, the quality that I was playing against on Sunday was physically very easy to deal with. So I was excelling there, but I'd had that exposure. And anything I came across on a Sunday for Leicester City's under 16s or under 15s was, so what? I'm Marking Esca. So what? Don't bother me. Yeah, but he's the best. He's this, he's that. Yeah, but I had to mark some big fat man last night.
Yeah.
You know, like who's elbowed me twice. Like, all I've got to do is match physically a meal, and he ain't going to run past me, which I did. You know, on time to time when we played in the cups and stuff. So there was the element of understanding from one, you know, I suppose, age group to another very quickly, which gave me that understanding that I've got to mix my persona to people. I've got to change myself, you know, to fit in with people, but also just make sure you're true to yourself. I didn't want to walk away from a conversation thinking, fucking hell, I ain't been myself there. You know, I can change my tone, I can change my image, I can change my body language, but I haven't been myself, which I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror if I wasn't who I wanted to be.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm surprised what you just said there to me, mate. And like you said, we'll go off on tangents because I can talk for fun about football. But I'm surprised what you said there, that you didn't expect me to do what I've done. Like, I always thought this is the route I was taking.
Yeah. See, that's just...
So it's good. It's good.
My personal opinion, because it wasn't...
No, good. Listen, opinions are fantastic. It's good to talk them out. That's what I'm saying. You can't have everyone's thinking the same. It's fucking stupid.
So to touch back on what I meant, like, so in terms of what I said about your like banter in the dressing room and before training and before games, but then when it came to like actually playing and training, you were completely on it. And then obviously after speaking to you and playing with you a few times, you obviously know that you can tell whether someone's got game understanding, and obviously you had that, and you had the voice in the dressing room as well. You had like respect from the players for good reasons. It was never, oh, I'm scared of Guy, I need to play well. It was because Guy wants me to play well, and he's trying to get the best out of us as a group, as a collective. But then obviously I just assumed that, okay, well, he's going to play and then have a good career in that, and then obviously just go and maybe do something else outside of the game. So I never thought you'd go down the coaching route just because I thought it probably wouldn't interest you. But then now you're obviously talking about reading psychology books and things like that. So that was a side of you that I didn't even know about. So already you're kind of putting the steps in motion to transition away from the game anyway. But I just wasn't aware of that.
No, it's okay. I was always very much as I knew football was always going to be, the industry I was in as a player. I also kept my friends close, the ones I grew up with, because we'd gone through so much as a group.
Yeah.
I was in the we're having dinner on Friday. There's like 6 of us, obviously, because you can only have 6 in a minute, and we're catching up, and we're like 41. We've got kids now. Because I knew that a lot of them friendships would still be here.
Yeah.
And you bump into a lot of good people in football, and my phone's always open to people calling me, and I'm always tapping into people in football, because that's the relationship element that we've still got. And if people was to call me off the cuff from past, I'd answer the calls. I don't see that coldness of like, oh, I've not spoke to him so and so, I'm not going to deal with it. Which you get a lot of that as well, but I make sure I call again. And if I want to get hold of you, I'll get hold of you another way, and I'll go around the emails, and I'll do this because I want to speak to you, and I don't see why you should ignore me, because we've gone through certain things, and dressing rooms are emotional places, and it's important that I kept my group. So socially, I wasn't that really into the social end of football, like hanging around and playing golf together and doing all this. Yeah, I just wasn't that wasn't what I wanted. My friends were my friends. I wanted to go back and see them. I wanted to go back and see my mum. I didn't have a lot of time for that, because and then I also thought it took away a bit of who I was.
Okay.
I didn't need everyone to know who I was, because then there's an element where they're getting a bit too comfortable with you.
Yeah.
Because if I've got to, like I said, if I've got to have an argument with somebody for the right reasons in a dressing room, I had to do it.
Yeah.
And there was an element of, and plus, I wasn't at places very long. To really get to know me, I weren't in like dressing rooms for that long.
Yeah.
The time when I was at even at Rotherham, I did 2 strong years, and then I was back out on loan again.
Yeah.
And it was like, fucking hell. And dressing rooms changed very quickly, especially when we were playing.
Yeah.
They were turning over amounts of players. It was conveyor belt. Some of these managers didn't have a clue about recruitment, didn't have a clue about team building, and just being lucky and just being unlucky. Rushing it through. I get 10 in, I've got 4 in the window, I got 7 in the window, and everyone's looking at each other going, who the fuck is this kid?
Yeah.
Oh, how you doing again? And I found that quite interesting for me as a player, because I was meeting people, which I always enjoyed. But for some of the people, for some of the dressing room, the anxiety kicks in, the worry starts to happen. They're going home and telling the missus, oh, someone's going to take my shirt. Oh no, we've just signed a new left back. Oh no, just signed a new centre forward. It massively affects people.
Yeah.
The managers just going, let's just.
For me,
say again, mate.
I always used to see it as a challenge. So in the dressing room, you get wind of a new centre back coming in, a new left winger coming in, and then it happens, and it's like, okay, well, I need to raise my game, and then naturally you would, and then invariably that player would either not play in the team or find another position within the team. That was just how I used to look at it. But like you said, some players would kind of go in their shell, moan about it, try and drag other people down with them, and that. Sometimes it was out of your hands, regardless of how you played. The manager was going to bring them in, and they just had to play.
Typecasted again.
Yeah.
You've done something wrong. I'm going to bring someone in. You could be the man of the match when the lad's missing for 1 game or 2 games, and you're not playing him. It's not a lot you can do, and you can sit home, beat yourself up, and go down the route of gambling or drinking or whatever. It's just not a lot you can do, mate. There's just not a lot you can do. People's images of perceptions of you change. They've got their version and your version that you're giving off. And if it doesn't fit their criteria for that split second, they've got to make a decision for them. And unfortunately, you might not be in their plans. And it's not personal. And this is the big thing I learned going into coaching, going into rapport building, going into all these different things. There's always going to be conflicts.
Yeah.
why can't we all win?
Mm.
And this is where I think managers let themselves down, coaches let themselves down by not speaking to players more.
Yeah.
You know, the dressing room inevitably will be a better place if you spoke to the players.
Of course.
I'm not going to tell him on a Friday. I'm not going to tell him on a Thursday he's not playing Saturday.
Yeah.
There's no respect there then.
Exactly. Players just want honesty. I always did, on a footballing scale, I always played better in a team that tried to play football. But I always respected a manager more or a coach more when they were just honest with me. Like, for example, when I went to Bournemouth, I left Leicester and I went to Bournemouth. So in terms of league status, it was a step down. But I was going into a footballing team. Now, these players were already established, like you were when you were younger, they were playing against men. They had mortgages and rent to pay. I'm coming from youth team and reserve. So you win a game, brilliant. If you lose, on to the next one. There's no scope there. There was nothing to play for, as you know. So when I went to Bournemouth, and it was Sean O'Driscoll at the time, really good manager, and he actually said to me, he pulled me, and I was in the team at the time. I wasn't out of the team. I was in the team, and he just said, you need to be more consistent with your playing. And I was like, I'm playing quite well, like, and I'm in your team. Like, what do you mean? I didn't really understand or comprehend what he meant. It's probably one of the best pieces of advice I ever had, because I took that forward. And obviously, the more consistent you are, the more you're going to obviously have an impression on the team, and also more likely to stay in the team and kick on. Because as you know, as a youngster, you're growing up, you kind of play well 1 or 2 games, and then play 4, 3 or 4, and it's up and down a lot. And as a winger, you know, when a team's not playing well, it's normally the wingers who get dragged off first, just because natural position that they play. So again, you're saying there about kind of perceptions and things like that, and advice, and just managers being honest. I'm not going to pull him on Friday to tell him he's not playing. I'm going to tell him in the dressing room, knowing that he can't say anything in the dressing room because we've got a game in 2 hours. It's just poor management for me. I just didn't like it. I mean, there was one manager I remember who he'd pull the team, they'd pull players a few hours before the game and say, you're not playing today, but you're going to play next week. And I was like, how does that work? So if the team wins today, you've already got a dilemma for yourself because you need to change the team for next week. It doesn't make any sense. So on one hand, he's giving you bad news, but he's trying to appease you by saying that next week you're going to be playing. I just thought, I've never heard or come across that again since whilst I was playing, but it was just a strange scenario for me.
I've heard that as well, and that makes me think that whoever did it, which I knew a couple of guys who did it, going through my multiple managers that I work with and coaches, they're nervous of the decisions.
Yeah.
They're spending more time thinking about, and I would say reassuring themselves that there's decisions to be made, which there always is as a manager. But they're nervous of the decisions they make because they don't believe in the decisions they make. Like, it's bonkers. Like, there's a process to make when you're making a decision. There's goodies either way. There's loads of learning curves either way. There's loads of good things to learn from it. There's loads of decisions to be made along the way to that decision. Yeah. But inevitably, you're doing it for the right reasons for the manager, for himself, right? You know, that's your no right and wrong. I'm doing this decision to try and win a football match. The player will see it in another way. You know, the player will see it as like, you know, personal and various different other things. But as a player, I'd take it on board a lot quicker if it was done in a cleaner and easier way of listen, you're not playing this week because these are the reasons. I pulled you Wednesday, Thursday because I'm going to change it in shape. Work at your game here, get back in the side, mate.
That's it.
You know, get back in the side. Prove to me you can get back in the side in training. If I see a dip in attitude and application, you're not going to play anyway. If I don't see a dip, if I don't see a problem with your attitude, there's going to be a call up again soon. Get on with it. Be a man and get on with it. Because I'm telling you now, I need you. I need you in my squad. I need you around the place. That's why I've given you a 2-year deal. That's why I gave you a year deal on good money. Go and earn that money for me, please. And we'll get back to this conversation soon when you're back in the side and I'm patting you on the back. Because football changes so quick. And before you know it, you know, I'm coming out of the dressing room after being dropped going, I'm going to get back in the side soon. Yeah. I just got to keep working on. I just got to do this in the game Gaffer's told me. You know, with all these people in the building these days, with these managers, this entourage they have coming out the dugout shouting random bits and bobs and stuff like that. And like, why can't you use other staff members to help the process as well?
Yeah.
Like, if you got a problem in the game, show me the clips then, Gaffer. Here's the clips.
Yeah.
If you think it's psychological, Gaffer, you know, where's the meeting with the psychologist next? Here's the meeting. You know, if it's a fitness problem, why ain't I working on Saturday then instead of going to the game? I've already organised it. Get yourself down there Saturday morning. You know, use the staff. You know, there's so many variables to think about, and that's what I'm saying about the nervousness of some of these managers not having them tools in the box psychologically first, coming into these dressing rooms massively out their depth in regards to even management, because this is the thing, because they're coaches and not managers. People seem to think that they can then go and manage football teams because they can put a coaching session on, which is bonkers. Which is bonkers. There's some great coaches on Sunday morning coaching. I watch it. I take my kids down there, but there's not great managers out there. And that's why you're right in one point that you said earlier on about I wouldn't have gone down the coaching route. But unfortunately, the industry's set up for you that you've got to have a coaching badge to be a manager.
Ridiculous.
To be a coach, to understand management of people. And this is where the best managers, I would say, the best man managers, the best ones you watch on a daily basis, aren't usually there on the coaching element of the pitch all the time. They're there managing the people.
Prime example of that is Martin O'Neill. Never used to see him. Monday to Thursday, never see him.
Friday in the dressing room with the lads.
Friday, five-a-side, as you know, he'd pop around, have a look at the boys. If you're not on it, he'd let you know. If you're on it, he'd let you know. So it's a win-win, honesty again. And everyone knew their jobs. He wasn't the best coach. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't a bad coach. He had Steve Walford to look after the coaching. And he was
the coach.
That was it. Martin O'Neill.
What about that coach we had for him? What about his bag carrier we had?
Oh yeah. Oh mate.
Wow.
Great. But yeah. Wow. So touch on Leicester. Talk to me about obviously your time at Leicester, because you're a Leicester boy. You're playing for your local team, which is great. I never really had that opportunity as a child or as a player. Obviously, you've gone through the youth team. You had some great players, Stefan Oakes, and I don't know, were you in Heskey's youth team as well or not?
Yeah, he left literally. He was too good, mate. He left. He was the second year. I was the first year. Okay. So we started that season when I was the first year. He was the second year.
Yeah.
We started the season and I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And we started the season on fire. Like, we were winning everything, and I didn't start. And I was just sitting watching, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what am I doing this for? Like, and this is how I was straight away, like knocking on the door. Like, I can earn £150 a week playing so-and-so football for men, local football, and go and make money with my boys. Yeah? Why do I need to be here on 30 quid? That was going off in my head at that age. So I knocked on the door, went and seen Dave Nish. This is shit. I'm not enjoying it like yourself. This is what I want to do. I don't want to earn 30 quid cleaning toilets up, you know, polishing balls, getting my fucking leg burnt with a spoon by the first team. You know, various different things that was going on.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't want to do that for 30 quid. I had my mum to feed, I had my sister to feed, I had my stuff was going on in my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't get football for that. And it wasn't about earning the money situation. It was about the hard work to get anywhere near a football side. Just to get anywhere near it was like, hold on a minute, I'm good enough to be in this side.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I'd had the conversation. I'd threatened to leave. They said, no, listen, it's the process. It's how we do things around here. The second years need to play because of this. And they were honest with me.
Yeah.
They were blatant, honest. You're not up to speed yet. It's a transition. Your body's changing. You've only just got into training like this. You've only just got into this level. You were terrible in pre-season because I was. I didn't understand everyday training because physically I just couldn't cope at the start.
Yeah.
And you know, we're gonna go with these guys for a bit, but just keep getting your fitness. So I went away and worked on my fitness. 4 weeks later, I'm in the side. A couple of weeks later, I'm in the reserves. Like I'm 16, or just turned 17, and I'm like, I'm playing for the reserves, like men's football again.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking flying.
Yeah.
Eskid gone into the first team group, so the pathway's now created for us. I'm training with the first team at 17, just by someone being honest to me going away and applying that honesty, and me getting in the reserves. And that was under McGee at the time.
Okay.
So McGee gets sacked, and O'Neill takes over. And I'm playing reserve team football. They're all over me. They're loving me at the minute. I'm like, I'm flying. And I get an offer to go to Lincoln as a 17-year-old to sign for like 100 grand. I remember Martin O'Neill pulling me in. I've had a bid. Do you want to go? You know, and I'm going, do I want to go? Like, have I got a future here? He's like, yeah. I don't want to go then. So I went away as soon as I was old enough. I went on loan to Rushden Diamonds.
Yeah.
And did really well. And then I went on loan to the Football League and won promotion that season.
Yeah.
And they offered me a 3-year deal, Leicester City did, which was a great honour.
Yeah.
I went from like £100 a week, first year pro, to 350 in a signing on fee, whatever, you know, like it jumped quite quickly, like 4 times your money.
Yeah.
Went from wearing Timberland to wearing Gucci. And like you did, you just did it, didn't you? You just did it.
Yeah,
it was Prada, wearing Prada.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, I'd wish I had that money back now for them trainers. But it was something you did, and something I enjoyed, and you know, all that I bought into it all, and I was hanging around with the first team, and we were going on away trips, and I posted something not so long back about being with my debut was that pre-season with, and funny enough, we played AK Athens, didn't we, in the cup?
I saw that post, actually, yeah.
I posted, that was my debut.
Yeah.
That was my pre-season debut for Leicester City.
Yeah.
Playing against AKA Athens in the first team. That's what I classed my debut as. Now, again, I didn't make my debut for the first team for whatever reason, and rightly so, I wasn't good enough. But I made my pre-season debut, and it was a proud moment. I've been to Greece with the lads. I'd done really well, and they started me in that game against like this list of like lads I didn't know who they were. Obviously, you didn't.
Yeah.
But like, it was unbelievable because when I researched them back then, where you researched them was, yes, we had the internet, obviously, but where you researched them was Champ Manager.
Yeah.
And I researched the Greek guys, Champ Manager, when I got back into the hotel because I had my computer there and everything. And I was sharing a room with Robbie Savage.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing? You coming out on the piss? I'm like, no, I'm not drinking, thanks. And they all went out. And he went, oh, well, come out. So I went out and looked at the first team, how they were.
Yeah.
I was amazed, like, what was going on. I was amazed. It was like amazing.
Them days.
It was a great learning curve. They were great to me. You know, I look back at I look back at the guys I met at Leicester City, and so like yourself, all the guys, you know, some real good kids there. We were trying our bollocks off. We had a genuinely good dressing room as a 17, 18, 19-year-olds. And you, like you said, you lot were younger, but you were coming through.
Yeah. You
blatantly had the talent. You blatantly had Boateng, yourself, Pipes, Gothe. You know, all them people were coming through, and I'm thinking that there's a good training. If they'd done more with us, and not left us to our own devices in regards to who we had as a coach, I think we could have, Tommy Goodwin, Odje, I think we could have done more and probably had better involvement with Leicester City. I mean, Tommy come through, John Hodges was on the bench. You know, you went off having a good career, I went off had a good career. And plus, maybe you can look at it and go, we just landed where we landed.
Yeah.
You know, we just landed where we landed. We tried our hardest, you know, because I know you did, I know I did. I know maybe we could have had a couple of months that season where I probably could have done this or probably could have done that. But it's not as if you gave up in any shape or form in your career. I know I didn't. I tried every week to turn it around if it was wrong. I tried every week to keep the momentum going if it was right. And that was the important thing for me. It was being consistent with who I was and what I did every day. And obsessed with it, mate. Still am.
Yeah. And how does it make you feel, kind of, you've been out on loan a few times, and then it got to a situation where you knew you had to step out and obviously establish yourself and get some games under your belt. How did it make you feel when you actually left, like Leicester, with it being your boyhood club?
Yeah, I was disappointed. I was disappointed how it ended, because it ended in a way where it ended harshly, if I'm honest. I'd been out on loan. I mean, listen, I'd played most games out of anybody at the 23s or the 21s back then, or the 18s or whatever. I played the most. I'd been out on loan numerous of times and done reasonably well most times I've been out.
Yeah.
And I was getting a lot of attention, and a lot of people were wanting to buy me, wanting to get involved with me. I had an agent, good company at the time, looked after me.
Yeah.
Still going as well, so you can see the consistency of themselves.
Mm.
And I felt that they kind of like, that time, I'd gone out on loan. Seamus, the goalkeeping coach at the time, remember Seamus?
Yeah,
Lovely guy. He'd been at Rotherham as a player. I knew the Rotherham guys. They wanted me out on loan. We'd played Rotherham in the reserves, and I played particularly well. And then I'd been out on loan again to Lincoln and played in the cup against Barnsley. They'd watched me there, and had done well again. And that was Championship. We were League 2 at the time, Lincoln. And I'd done well, got man of the match a couple of times for Lincoln, and I'd had a couple of offers to go League 1.
Yeah.
Now League 1, but at the time Division 3, I think it was at the time, and I was in Division 4. And it just not happened. And then went to Lincoln, come back. Then Rotherham come in for me and said, listen, go on loan again. And they were 10th, and we weren't near the top of the league before, just as I was leaving, which was against Hull. One of my last games was against Hull.
Yeah.
And I put my arm through the referee's door, pissed off, because I got sent off, got stamped on. I kicked out, walked in, and I didn't know it was a referee's door, I promise. And I still say this to this day. But I just punched the door. And I was so like pissed off for being sent off. The last game against on loan, got to go back to Leicester, embarrassed, all these emotions. And I walked into the dressing room. It doesn't happen now, but I walked into the dressing room on my own. And my head was going off, like, I'm fucking furious. But I was on my own. So as I walked through, bang this door, fucking get out of my way. No one followed me down. No one was there. So I acted out, basically, as a kid, a child. Frustrated. Pulled my arm out, punched it again, the door, walked off. And there's no sign saying referee or anything like that. It's literally an empty door. Just, of course, I chopped all my arm up. Ripped all my arm. There's glass within the door.
Wow.
Gone through the glass, ripped my arm off, walked off down the tunnel. Felt dizzy straight away. Didn't even, I swear, to this day, like, I can remember the whole incident, and sat down, started getting changed. And like, bizarrely acting all bizarre, I suppose, but started getting changed.
Yeah.
And there's fucking blood all over the place, like, and I mean, like, I'm looking at the floor, not even bothered, but I'm still getting changed.
Yeah.
I must be in shock because of the amount of blood that I've lost or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm still conscious, I'm still acting right, and I'm bleeding for fun. So I walked out the dressing room all calmly, and I'm still pretty calm, which is, the doc said, like, bizarre, but I'm in like high shock, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the big Colin Alside, who was a big, strong centre forward for Hull, was in the tunnel, heard the commotion, me swearing and shouting, kicking stuff, banging the door, come and followed in, which was lovely of him. You're right, guy, because we played against each other a few times. Good, nice guy. Like you said, like, just genuinely seeing how I was doing.
Yeah.
He fainted.
Wow.
He's like all lost his legs because he had blood everywhere. And he's a big 6'4", big guy. And I've gone, fucking hell, like, my arm's bleeding and starting to spray a little. Yeah. And I'm like losing. So I flapped it up, put the flap over the hole. And I've got like 70 stitches in my arm.
Wow.
And I tell you this, to this day, not one of the coaching staff rang me up.
Really?
Not one of the coaching staff rang me up. And not one of those coaching staff had a conversation with me from Leicester City to see if I was okay. The physio rang me. Alan Smith, always remember that today. He left a message on my mobile phone, big massive brick I had back in the day. And he left me a message, and I got back to him, and he never rang me back. And a couple of weeks later, my loan was just about to run out, and they signed me for 50 grand, and not one person spoke to me from Leicester City.
Wow. That's crazy.
And that was it. That ended. Gone, done. See you later, guy. Maybe my fault. Maybe my fault. You know,
but
maybe the fault.
So you've reacted, but there's still two sides to a story. So someone surely reaches out from a compassionate level and says, "Oh, Guy, like I heard this story. What's your version? What happened?" But that didn't happen, did it?
I spoke to no one at the club.
Wow.
I signed for Rotherham, 50 grand. They offered me a good contract to sign. I signed for Rotherham. I'd expect a phone call, and I probably signed because I didn't get a phone call.
Yeah.
Still think back to that day, you know, and go, well, no one called me. Like, fuck you, like, you know what I mean? But that was the staff we had then managing the club. You know, compassion, great guy, blah blah blah, but ruthless as well.
Yeah.
You know, an element of ruthlessness about him that was cold. That you know, and the staff didn't care about Guy Branston. The staff was more bothered about Phil Gilchrist, Jerry Taggart, Matt Elliott. You know, them centre off. So I understood that as well, and I took my opportunity to run, and I ran hard, and probably drive me again to go where I went. You know, I was in the Championship in 2 years' time, playing in the Championship with against Leicester City. You know, we played against them in League One because they got relegated down the divisions, and you know, all them different things started to happen to Leicester City as a football club. And the pillars I kept in contact with. You know, the pillars of the football club are still there now, and still they're going to be now as well. So still there then, and still there now. So loads of positives came out, mate. Loads of positives came out.
He's still there, ain't he? He's doing well for himself. So I mean, these are the stories I like, just because from the outside looking in, as you all know, everyone's got a perception of footballers, athletes, and that. And these stories kind of it's like an eye opener. Even for me, I heard about the story, but I never heard it from the horse's mouth. So I just heard that.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
Here we go again. The horse now. I'm from Halloween to the horse.
I just literally heard punch the door, got sent off, punch the door, and then you hear elements, people add bits, take bits away to make it sound good or whatever. So it's good to hear what happened. But it's sad to hear that kind of no one called you to find out kind of your side of the story from the club, which is quite sad. But again,
hey, listen, there's a lot worse happened to me, trust me.
Yeah, no, I know. So, I mean, you obviously left Leicester, you went on, had a good career, played in the Championship and kind of League One, League Two, sustained the career for, 15, 20 years. So that's commendable in itself. And then we're talking back end now. So you come to the end of your career, you're kind of thinking about what to do next. What was your retirement process? How did you approach that?
I always invested. I loved stocks and shares. I loved investing. I loved buying stuff. I loved selling stuff. I loved market trade. I was a market trader family. Okay. You know, wheeling and dealing. And if you remember, even when I used to come in the dressing rooms, I was selling stuff. I had this, I had that. You remember?
Yeah.
I always had bits and bobs, like either if it was snide jeans to, you know, whatever I get my hands on, boxes, mobile phones from my mates. And I always had summit. I was always doing summit. And I loved it. I enjoyed that side. I was always wheeling and dealing. And, you know, I was always trying to make a few quid. If I was on 500, I wanted to make £1,000. If I was on £1,000, I wanted to make 2. And I've always had that mentality. So I know I'd always earn money. It's what pursuit I put myself into. And at 28, 29, I fell into a football league ruling, funny enough, after the Notts County. Okay. And I'd had 2 clubs in one season. And there was a new ruling come out from FIFA that you could only play for 2 clubs. You couldn't play for the third. You could sign for the third, but you wouldn't be allowed to play. You couldn't register. Okay. So who's going to sign a travelling player like me for the sake of signing me? Yeah. So I went back to Rushden because Rushden wanted me to just train with them. And they were going through the problems financially, and I was willing to train with them because they were good people. Curtis was there, Curtis Woodhouse, some good guys there, Simon Jackson, people like that. Never been there as well. And I knew the club now. It was different to when I was there, but it was still a good club. So I thought, in the conference, I'll go and train there, some good people there. And I looked at it and went, but why ain't I getting a league club? You know, how can I go from being at, I think it was Peterborough, going out and loan that season to Northampton. Yeah. And loan didn't count. And then can't get a sniff at Notts County because I ripped my calf whilst I was on trial, which is understandable. Yeah. I played 45 minutes, got brought off because I was nowhere near fit and my calf had ripped again. So I was injured when I was there on trial, which is a killer. And you know what it's like. And I only signed 28 days, so I couldn't get out of it. And they were great. They were unbelievable. They said, "Oh, we'll try and re-sign you," but they wouldn't let us re-sign. FIFA wouldn't let me re-sign there either because we'd cancelled it and started again. But you weren't allowed to do that because it's a brand new rule. And so I went to Rushden and found out that rule had basically been explained to me. But like, where was my agent? Like, where was the information coming from? Where was the PFA? And, you know, all these different things I was screwing around for. But why would they know that? Because it's a brand new rule.
Yeah.
But you'd think that someone would be there explaining to you that this would affect you as a footballer.
Yeah, cool.
And no one knew it. No one even heard about it. So it was a bizarre time. And so I dropped into the non-league. And I either take the money from Peterborough because I'd been paid up anyway, go to Notts County, obviously that failed. Rushden Diamond obviously couldn't sign because of the Football League ruling, but I could drop in between the leagues, which was basically Conference North and below, or Conference South, because it don't fall under the conference ruling.
Yeah.
And which is the Football League ruling again. So I was struggling. So I went to Conference North with Kettering. And I was still earning from Peterborough. I was getting paid good money from Kettering. And it weren't too bad, but I was playing at a real level I've never even experienced before.
Yeah.
So I'd gone from 20,000 in the stands to 4 people. You know, I turned up at Blythe Spartan, mud all over my boot.
Yeah.
All of me, you know, the pitch was terrible. Yeah. I'm thinking, what the hell has gone on here? Yeah. Like, where is my career? I've got 3 houses. I've got $7,000 a month going out my bank account.
Wow.
I've got now very little money coming weekly. You know, I've got to start turning this around quick. How can I get attention? Why ain't no one watching me? What's gone wrong? Perception again. People thinking of, oh, he's just legs are gone, whatever. Let's just fuck him up. Let's not forget. But I said, how has this just disappeared like that? Like, my agent's not doing any work for me. I rang the PFA up. They weren't returning my calls at the time. Right. And then I got in touch with them then and were very, very helpful. So I had 2 sides of 2 different things going on. And this is where the plan came. We need a system in place to help us as footballers. We need a plan. We need somewhere we can go to if we're struggling to upload our skills, our videos, our footage, and basically get it out there. We need a promoter. We need someone that will promote us for the right reasons. Our skill level, our skill sets. And that's where I started going, well, when I'm sending my DVDs off and people aren't even watching them, you know, there needs to be a central database. So I ain't got to send my DVDs off and, you know, on the discs, you used to get them on and like send them off and, like 2 weeks later, still ain't heard nothing. No one speaks to you. You know, no one's returning my calls. But then I started playing really, really well. I got my head around it. I said, I'm here now. I'm gonna have to get on with this. And got on with it big time. We won 14 games in a row, something stupid like didn't concede, ripped it up, got promoted. So I got another promotion. Now I'm in the conference, still doing what I'm doing. So my ideas were developing into this central database that I ended up about 2 years later, really putting some money into. Okay. It took about 2 years to build the website, a year and a half and I started loading into it, started getting people to load up to it. I was getting all the hits on the online. So I built a recruitment website for footballers. Okay. That they upload their clips via YouTube, via files, MP4 files. They can load it up into their section. They can put their details on, tell people what they're requesting and what they need. And hopefully managers and staff would come on and watch the central database. Very different to Y Scout, very different. It was more of a promotional tool that we could tap into as footballers. The concept was working. The cost was the different side of things. Right. So the concept was working. I was getting loads of hits, 400,000 hits in the summer. People were loading up. I was getting lots of buy-ins. But then I started to see that footballers need their hands holding. You know, they couldn't use computers. The agents didn't want to load up because they thought I was trying to take their clients. And it was becoming ridiculously difficult for me to help somebody. That's the difference. I'm genuinely trying to help somebody by getting to a football club, by getting a trial. And then I'm not getting any thanks. I'm not getting any thanks from the player or the club for finding them a player on the cheap, for finding them a player that's great value. I'm doing all this work for these people. No one gives a fuck about where the money's coming from to build the website, to the time I'm taking away from my new family, the time I'm spending on all these different things. So my ideas were there already brewing as I was retiring.
Okay.
And I'd got to the stage at 34 where I was playing, thinking, when's the clock? What time is it now? You know, oh God, another half an hour getting beat up. Oh, you know, like getting elbowed, getting kicked, getting battered, getting bruised, coming off black-eyed. The manager's not appreciating me. You know, manager's not didn't give two hoots if I was injured or fit.
Yeah.
You know, and I ended up ripping my ankle and playing for 10 weeks with it.
Wow.
And I mean ripping my ankle to the point of like, after a game or training, I couldn't walk until I took 2 free brufen, dextrofenic, you know, all the tablets you took.
Yeah.
I'm going to the club, Plymouth at the time. There's something wrong with my ankle. I'll play if you need me because we needed it because we're near the relegation. I'll play if you need me, but you've got to get me a scan. Oh, it's just, it'll settle down once you have a rest. It'll settle down. Get me a scan, get me a scan, get me a scan. And it got to about Jan and I've gone, listen, I'm not playing anymore now. You're pretty much safe.
Yeah.
I'm not playing anymore. My ankle's hanging off. I'm not even sitting on the bench for you to be around the lads. Just get me a scan and see what the scan said. You're 4 months out with a tear, a rip in your ankle that I should have done 4 months before, but because of who I was, carried on.
Yeah.
And I got to the stage and it was literally like, look, pay me on my contract. I can't do anything. I have to stay off my foot basically to fix it. Pay me up my contract, and I'm just going to concentrate on this pursuit, and I'll come back into it in the summer and address it in the summer if I want to start playing again. And again, literally ripped my contract up, got paid up, so I had my money till July.
Yeah.
My pension was going to kick in that season as well because I was 35.
Yeah.
And not one person rang me up from the PFA other than the pension guys. Not one person rang me up from football. You know, not you okay? All these different horror stories you hear. No one gives a fuck, mate.
No one cares.
And that was the thing. You just get on with it, and I got on with it. And I tell you what, the best advice ever for me I heard was 10% care, 90% done. So what you do in your career and where you go and all these things, the 10% care, 90% done. There might be a bit of leeway into people that talk to you and things like that. There's all them things like that dialogue and rapport we had from the past, and now we're doing this and all these different great things. But like the difficulty you have is you can't care for everybody either, because you ain't got enough time in the day.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the hardship of life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I'd been through that so many times in the past. I knew that I had to do this for myself, and I retired that summer. And I was quite happy to retire. I was sick of the death of the bullshit that went on in football, and I wanted to help players. I genuinely wanted to help players with this system I had, and help players who were out of contract, help players who needed advice, help players who did this and that. So before I knew it, I was already scouting, recruiting, again, breaking down barriers by making calls for them, building rapport with strangers. Again, all these different aspects of skill sets has brought me to where I am today. And it was and in the grand scheme of things, I lost a lot of money doing it.
Right. Okay.
But it taught me so much. I learned so much. I learned about business. I learned about relationship building. I learned about psychological aspects of being dropped, more mental health issues, more psychological stuff. You know, sports psychology. I was doing that on the bus when I was traveling around being injured. I'd done nutrition when I was traveling around being injured. You know, I'd done all these different things that were helping me with this business. And I got myself so much experience before I retired, and with my little, I suppose, market trader techniques I grew as a kid, I know I'd always get work, so I weren't too worried about the future. I'd already had exposure in failing. I'd already had exposure in the ruthlessness of life. I'd already hit so many bumps that, you know, I had bumps everywhere. You know, but I just took a bruising and just got on with it, you know, and all these different things became a learning, a real good learning experience that makes me smiley today and happy today.
Yeah, that's massive, mate. And like you touched on so many things there that obviously I can't talk about them all. But in terms of your career and kind of life, they come together naturally, just because that's just kind of the process that we have in our lives. But all the things that you've gone through, kind of punching the door, being misunderstood, having a good career, ups and downs, you've got through it, played through injuries, all these things are character building. And it all adds to your transferable skills, and it allows you to take all that experience and push it on and bring it forward into what you're doing now at Leicester. And obviously you're carrying around with you on a daily basis all of these experiences and all this knowledge, and obviously you can articulate it well. It's coming from the heart, because it's not a story that someone else is like told. It's your story. So you can transfer all that information to all these young boys at Leicester and all the other players that you're dealing with as well. And it's invaluable experience. I never had it as a player. I had a great family around me, and I'd get all my experiences from them. All my brothers and sisters were a lot older than me, so they were kind of going through life and portraying their kind of stories to me, and then I'd take that on and obviously innate that into my own psyche. But I never had it from an older player. Like sometimes you hear stories now where there's like senior players putting their arm around younger players and saying, look, do this, do that, maybe try doing this and whatever. I never had that. If I wanted it, I'd go and ask, but invariably sometimes you don't really want to approach like senior players and that, especially when you're in the youth team. We never had that. I never had it in Leicester. So it's good that someone like yourself is still in the game. And it's not a case of, oh, you need to be in the Premier League and then that's where you get your recognition. It's not. You didn't have that career, but you still got great scenarios, great stories, great kind of experiences that you can pass on to these younger players. And I'm sure they're obviously well receptive of kind of you being there, and obviously.
Yeah, they don't ring me back. They're all cool. Honestly, some of them are fantastic guys, and you know, they've all got their own characters. So you have to deal with them, you know, and you can't, like, even just that quick incident, they don't ring me back, you know, you have to ring them back. You have to keep chasing. You have to show that the club's important and you're important to the football club. So there's so many different aspects of I would say characters, and I think the biggest thing I think that you've got yourself and I've got that kids need to learn is resilience. And this pandemic we're in, this situation we're in, you know, we'll learn, the modern kid or the modern child that we seem to think, you know, Generation Z and all this stuff and all these different, you know, generations we're now through the 2000s, and, you know, we'll teach them resilience, because they've got to be resilient and they've got to keep fighting for what they want and what they need in life, and you know, the bumps of the road that they've had it. I mean, my kids have had it completely different to the way I had it. Completely different. But do I want them to have my childhood, or my childhood wasn't that bad? Let me get this straight. My childhood wasn't that bad. But you're always striving, surely, to be better. Of
course.
You know, you're striving to improve. You're striving to be the best. You're striving, and the kids that I say, like, if they can go out alone and do well, what's the next step? Where's it going to take you? Where it's exciting. Where's that next pathway going to go? And I felt that a lot in my career. You know, I was excited by different scenarios. I don't think some people aren't. Some people want to do. Like, I'm still living in Leicester because people say, "Oh, you just moved back to Leicester." Hold on a minute. That's a great base. Cool. You know, it's the centre of the country. I can get to places. I can be in Scotland in 5 hours. I'll drive there tomorrow. What? You drive Scotland and watch a game? Yeah. Like, not a problem. But would you? But this is the thing. Like, some people go to their homes and live where they want to live for the rest of their lives and not even come out of the comfort blanket.
Yeah, true.
And that's where the resilience that these kids have now got to learn through this pandemic is the big thing in this. I think that if they can learn that resilience, they'll become so much stronger from it.
Yeah, true.
And they'll take on more in life, and they'll develop as people. And if I can teach, the big thing I can teach the lads at Leicester City is that things are going to go wrong in these loans, but come back, bounce back. You know, don't don't get knocked down too long.
Yeah.
Don't hold it inside too long. Release it, let it go, and then, you know, forget about it, move on, because there'll be more stuff coming to try and hold you down, because predominantly we set up to be negative.
Yeah.
You know, as people, as society, you know, the society wants us to hold us down. Everything's pushed upon negativity of everything, the news, life. You know, but why would you want to live that way? Like looking at the negative all the time. Boring.
That's true. Yeah, that makes complete sense, especially with what's going on now. I mean, based on how the conversation's gone so far, and it's been great chatting, and obviously really enjoyed listening to you anyway. You probably answered the next question or elements of it anyway. Do you think like more help's needed for footballers when it comes to kind of broaching, transitioning away from sport or retiring from kind of playing football? Do you think more needs to be done? And I'm talking all ages, so I'm not talking standard retire when you're 35. What now?
Yeah.
17.
Yeah. In a point of. Well, did you do your coaching badges?
Nah, I was never interested in coaching.
But
I always knew.
No. So when you was an apprentice, Dan, when you was an apprentice, did you do your coaching badges to the point of what did you do when you was doing your apprenticeship?
So when I was at Leicester, so I joined 16 and I was in the youth team until I was 18. But when I was 18, 17, 18, I was in the reserves as well. And also...
No. But when that's 16 to 18,
yeah,
there's a block of education there, isn't there?
Yeah, so we had to go... Oh, this is my story. We were supposed to go to college. But because I was at a certain level in the youth team, they must have saw something in me anyway. And they just said, look, okay, well, you don't have to go. Come and train with us. So come and train with the reserves or whatever. And everyone else went. So like Pipes, they would go, Jordan Stewart, and even though they were a year below, they'd go. I think Boateng, as you mentioned earlier, James Miller, Ainsley Neckles, they all went to college. I didn't go just because the coaches wanted me to stay and train because they saw me at a certain level. That's not me bigging myself up. That's just the scenario.
No. Listen. There's deals like that been done, you know, numerous times, isn't there?
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah.
So
that was my scenario.
just to understand that. Yes. So you didn't go to college. So the element of going down the coaching route, doing your coaching badges at that age is ridiculous. So I don't understand why even me, I was sent to do my coaching badges. You know, I didn't want to be a coach, but the reason you do it is to understand the game better. So it's not about doing your coaching badge. So I think there's got to be an element of understanding the game better tactically. You know, going through them things. So that made me a better player, right? By knowing about the coaching, by knowing about refereeing, by knowing about all these different aspects. But they've got to engage you education-wise. And when I'm sitting there as like now looking back into people's careers and the transition of going into certain timescales across your career, certain cut-off points as well. So you get to 18, you don't get a pro. What do you do then? Oh, you get a load of leaflets when you leave. Do you know what I mean? Well, where do them leaflets go? Well, probably on the floor of the car, then they're never picked up again. There's got to be action taken as soon as the cut-off points come. So, and it's not just from you, but like, you've got to have that drive to do it anyway. It's okay, the club giving you a load of information and a club saying, like, there's got to be things in place for you to transition into. That's an exit strategy. So you leave the door, but the door's just open across the way for you to do your plumbing, for you to do your this, for you to do that. All these different things, I think, would be more beneficial. My own view. You know, and how it develops. So, you know, me regarding contacting people when I was doing this transitional tool or recruitment tool I built, people didn't get back to me. People didn't ring me back. People wanted money off their companies when I was genuinely trying to help footballers. Yeah, but you're earning money off them. I'm going, no, I'm not. I'm not an agent. Well, where are you earning money off this? Well, they're loading their clips up, which they pay. And if the club organise it, I'll get the club to pay slightly towards the business. But like the clubs at the minute are just taking them on trial, so there's no money being passed. So all these different companies were not getting back to me, not really interested in the tool, but seeing a point to send the players to it, and you know, various different things. So different cut-off points was my point. Different cut-off points: 18, 21, 23, 25, 27, you know, you start drawing down the leagues. What you're going to do then? Part-time football. You know, 30. If you get to 30, wowzers, you've had a good career, 15 years, 14 years. 35, pension day. Amazing day. Pension, you know, what you've aimed for, you've got there. You know, but you can still probably have another 5 years physically as a player.
Yeah.
You know, it might be here, might be there. If you want to play, I didn't want to play. So all these different things, the cut-off points. Do more around the cut-off points. Understand the percentages around the cut-off points that people fail and leave the game professionally. Organise stuff around the transition as the cut-off points are presented, which isn't too difficult to work out. All you got to do is a few surveys and go from there. And look at the previous past of 5-10 years like they do on the graphs and work out that 18's the cut-off point the most, 21's the next cut-off points the second most, 23, 25, 27, and every few years there's a cut-off point.
Yeah.
And the pot gets thinner from people making it or being professional coming through.
Yeah.
And plus, now, probably more so than ever, kids in the lower leagues are being put into the first team at a younger age to raise their value up anyway.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of the 15-year-old who's made his debut will more than likely go into the Premier League, but won't play in the Premier League at 15, 16 because he's joined the 23s as, say, Aston Villa.
Yeah.
So what's the protection around him to get into that first team?
Exactly.
It looked pretty simple at Exeter.
Yeah.
But now what's it going to look like at Villa?
Good point.
And I'm just using an example that's just happened. So, you know, all these different things need to be looked at, and it's a case by case. It's a case by case subject.
Yeah.
Every subject's different because of all the different dynamics that go on around, like you said, family backgrounds, individuals, perception. So that's my answer to that, mate.
That's. I mean, I always ask that or try and ask that question. I think that's probably the first time someone's given that kind of response, and something to think about because something definitely needs to happen. I mean, what advice would you give to any players? So I'm talking players of all ages now. What advice would you give whilst thinking about retirement?
It's not a simple one because, like, again, you don't know the dynamics in every case is different. But I think the biggest thing is it comes around quick. You know, I blink and I've done 20 years. You know, I did 20 years in football, and I'm at that. I set that date up as important. 35.
Yeah.
Prominent, really important. That, you know, I'll put money into this. I'll put money into this. I'll put money into this. Not that I come out with stacks and stacks, but it got me. Listen, it got me a good situation, and it helped me out a lot. That I'm going to retire at 35, and I'll be able to draw down a large chunk of money. And I thought I'd be growing up at 35, and I wasn't. Do you know what I mean? And like, I'm still 25 in my head, and all these different things. And I'm just, you know, I'm incredibly experienced now in so many different things that I've got so many different things I want to do still, and I'm so hungry to get out there and work and meet people and do that. And you know, I struggle. My mentality is a struggle with just being a bit more calm, you know, from time to time. So it's good because it gets me up in the morning. And I look at it as a really enjoyable experience helping these lads. But my advice would be prepare. You know, get your bag ready. You know, get up in the morning. Don't overthink it. Just prepare for the future. You know, get a bag ready. Football changes so quickly, but life changes so quickly. You know, who would have thought we had a pandemic coming?
Yeah, true.
You know, what have we done to prepare for that? Not a lot, it looks like.
Yeah.
You know, what have I done to prepare for it? I didn't know it was coming. You know, so there's always going to be bits of the story missing. But, you know, I went away and I quickly adapted. I went away and educated. I went and took the time away from work that I was in the car. I'm using as, you know, working to do another education course or speaking on podcasts. Use the time. Use that free time you've got in the afternoons, not to play the Xbox all the time, not to go down the bookies, not to go out drinking with your mate, not to go out seeing the girlfriend that's going to leave you next year anyway. You know, all these different things that you need to get your head around. Use it for you. Use it. Be selfish. Use it for you to develop you.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? And that'd probably be my advice. Be prepared. Life's going to change quick.
That's massive, mate. Like I said, really enjoyed the chat. Haven't spoke for years, and it's like, yeah, as you know, in football, you kind of, when you meet someone who you've come across before, just carries on like normal. But yeah, I mean, sounds like you're onto a great thing there at Leicester, and obviously the other elements that you're doing as well. So can you continue to do that? Appreciate you coming on, like I said. Lastly, just let everyone know like where we can find you on social media, and obviously at Leicester as well.
Yeah, just if people want to talk and want to chat, I'd go on my Twitter feed, which is Brano1979. I'm on there usually spouting something from time to time. I'm on LinkedIn if you want to, obviously business related and want to go down that route. But look, if there's a footballer out there who's listening to this, who wants to go and speak about the transition, you know, personally, then just hit me up and have a conversation with me. I'm more than feasible to open a door. I like meeting new people, having a conversation with a like-minded ex-footballer. It's not a problem from any level, not a problem. So don't feel like you ain't got no one to speak to, and make sure you get in touch, buddies, all right?
Awesome, mate. Speak soon, hopefully. Keep in touch. I know everyone says this, keep in touch and that, but like really enjoyed obviously getting a further insight into kind of you and your personality.
Well, you have kept in touch over the years, and you know, you're not somebody that's disappeared off the face of the earth and, you know, got fat, which is a good thing. I don't like ex-footballers getting fat. I've got something against that. Yeah. I like people keeping themselves healthy because I think there's a massive positive in keeping yourself the way you would have liked to have looked, and the way you feel about yourself as well. And I just think there's loads of dopamine floating around. So I'm just off to do a HIIT training session out in the house. So there's a load of that going on. So I do like my home gym. I've built a nice little activity centre in the house now. Nice. And I ran around my garden for 200 lengths the other week just to prove to my stepson I could still run. And he was like, "What? No, you can't. Your legs are gone." I'm going, "Well, look, all right then. We've been setting challenges in the garden. See how many times we can run around the garden." Just an absolute mouse wheel it is.
Yeah. Wow.
It's not a big garden, by the way. I ain't ended up with a plot of land. It's not a big garden.
Then of like a massive garden surrounded with loads of trees and that.
No, mate. As long as there's a ball and I can edit as hard as I can still, I'm still got it. I've still got my ability.
Nice. No, I appreciate you coming on, like I said, and obviously keep doing what you're doing, keep in touch, and obviously we'll speak soon where possible.
Thanks very much. Thanks for getting me on, mate. Halloween special.
Yeah, nice one. Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.